It's all yours, Russell.
Okay, hi everybody. Great to see you all here for the first ever fully online live Event Horizon. This is actually officially or unofficially, Event Horizon number 49. So we're almost at the half century now of events. What is Event Horizon if you haven't been before? Well, it's essentially a night of science fiction cabaret. It's usually held in Edinburgh or other places across Scotland. But tonight, of course, it's from the underground bunkers to protect ourselves from ourselves. We usually do it in a pub too, so if you get a drink, do feel free to join in. I've got a Brewdog Stratospheric because I thought it was quite on theme. And Noel, I can hear you moving around.
Oh yeah, I didn't mute me, did I?
Okay. I should say also that we're releasing new content every Thursday at 8 o'clock. So aside from this, you can also come and visit shorelineinfinity.com, and we're uploading stuff all the time, author interviews, readings, and lots of other things. You'll also see at the side of the screen, or at the bottom, if you can see the chat button, that we have a live chat. So please feel free to chat, say, comment on the things that you hear. If you enjoy the jokes or something like that, or you want to answer one of the jokes with your own suggestion, you could do that. And we've also got a Twitter hashtag, which is #EventHorizon, and I've put that there in the side. But before we kick off, we're actually going to listen to a commercial from one of our sponsors.
Goes down smooth. Water is so past and pre-space-time travel, isn't it? Get yourself some social liquids. Social liquid. As we've now all elevated ourselves above the monkey needs of having a nice drink, we can now enjoy the finer things in life, and social liquids is fine. Social liquid. You put the liquid in or around yourself, and then if someone else is doing the same, that's just like a nice conversation starter. Hello, young lady. Would you like to travel to ancient Rome? Well, you know what they say. Yes! You might get addicted to social liquids.
There you are, everyone. Social liquid. A very good start to the night, I think you'll agree. Now, if you've been to an Event Horizon before, you'll know that before I introduce our acts, or our readers, I should say, they're not going to be dancing, then I tell you a sci-fi joke. And they're excellent. And the first joke, they're all the jokes tonight because it was May the 4th very recently, are Star Wars themed. So this is our first joke. What kind of cars do baby Jedis drive? You can put in the guess there if anyone's got any answers. What kind of cars do baby Jedis drive? No? Toy Yodas. S Yodas. Pretty good, Laura. Close. Anyway, that's our first joke of the night. And now on to our first reader of the night, who is Chris McQueer. And Chris is 28 years old, and he's a short story writer, screenwriter, and playwright. He's had 2 collections of short stories, the award-winning Hings and its follow-up, HWFG. He's currently working on his first novel, so please put lots of lovely comments welcoming Chris McQueer.
Oh, thank you very much, Russell. So this is a new story I've written, and it's called Spaceman. Here, boys, Friel shouted. What do you do if you see a spaceman? Park in it, man, one of his mates shouted back. No, genuinely, come on, see this. How, what is it? Asked Danny. Just come and see. The 3 boys in the flat crowded round the window. Look, over there, Friel said, just by the bins. The figure standing by the bins removed their helmet. The boys heard the crackle of radio static, like a crisp packet on a bonfire. Am I tripping? Asked Friel. Or is that a real spaceman? No, man, you're right, said Danny. I can see him as well. The spaceman held his helmet under his arm like he was carrying a football. It's the mid. Where's he came from? Where's he going? Asked Friel. He'll just be lost after a fancy dress party or something, said Danny. Taylor agreed. The spaceman heard them talking and looked up in their direction. He shouted something up at the window, but Friel didn't understand. He sounds Russian or something, said Friel. Hang on, we'll be doing in a minute, mate. Friel stubbed out his fag and went inside, heading for the door. What you doing? Asked Taylor. You don't go down there. How no? What if he needs your help? Come on, Mum will go and see what he's up to. It'll be a laugh, said Danny. Taylor reluctantly followed Friel and Danny down the stairs and out the back door. Are you all right? Friel shouted, wanting to help but not wanting to get too close. Is it English you speak? The spaceman asked. Can I use your telephone? Give him your phone, Friel said to Danny. Oh, fuck off. You give him yours. If mine's is dead. Well, he's no using mine anyway, said Taylor. He might be radioactive or something. What? How could they be radioactive? Said Friel. The spaceman stood waiting with an incredibly terse look on his face. His eyes were bloodshot, entirely red, but for the black of his pupils. Look at him, said Taylor. I don't trust him. Danny was about to hand over his phone when he decided against it. I need to sit down, the spaceman said. Can I come upstairs? No chance, said Taylor. My ma will kill me if she knows I've got you guys up. Never mind him. Is he a real astronaut? Asked Danny. How am I supposed to know? Replied Friel. Ask him. Are you a real astronaut? Danny said to the spaceman. I'm a cosmonaut, said the spaceman. I was supposed to land in Kazakhstan. Am I close? I don't know where that is, but no, you're definitely not in Kazakhstan. This is too gross, replied Friel. Where? Inquired the spaceman. Scotland. Scotland, shouted the spaceman, collapsing to the ground and his speech becoming frantic. So far away. I need a phone. I need to phone my base. Oh, his phone's dead. Mine's just pay as you go and I'm skint, said Danny. And he says you can't use his because you're radioactive. Aye, sorry, mate, said Friel. You can come up the stair while I charge mine if you want. The spaceman was fluent in English, but he could only understand bits of what the lads were saying to him. No, he can't, said Taylor. He can wait in the close, but there's no chance he's coming in. The boys turned back and headed back into the close. Are you coming, big man? Friel shouted to the spaceman. He got back up to his feet slowly. The Earth's gravity was making him feel exhausted already. His bones ached and he swore he could feel his spine shortening. The spaceman was about to cross the threshold into the flat when Taylor stopped him with a hand to the chest. Can't I have you in the house? He said. No hard feelings. The spaceman slumped against the wall of the close and tapped at his radio again. Still nothing but static. The boy stood in the hall staring at him. Friel squinted his eyes to see the name on his suit. S. Bolkov, it read in English, underneath the Cyrillic script. In the harsh light of the close, the boys could see the man was maybe in his 40s. He's got some moustache on him, said Danny. Aye, Friel agreed. I wish I could grow one like that. The spaceman looked up to see the three boys staring at him. They held each other's gazes for a few uneasy seconds. Can I have a drink, please? The spaceman said. I'll get my can of lager, said Danny. No, don't be daft, said Friel. He means water. Heading to the kitchen. The spaceman finally gave up trying to get through to his base. He could feel himself start to shake. If he didn't get expert medical care soon, he would be in big trouble. Friel handed him a pint glass and he drank the water down in 3 big gulps, using 2 gloved hands like a little boy. Sorry, could I have another? He asked. Aye, no bother. Friel went to fetch a second glass while the spaceman started to retch, his guttural sounds echoing around the stairwell. He's steaming, said Taylor. He's came from a fancy dress party and he's at the wind-up. Case closed. I'll phone him a taxi. Where did you come from? Said Friel, handing him more water. The spaceman looked at him confused. Where did you come from? Said Friel, handing him more water. The spaceman looked at him confused. Sorry, where did you come from? Friel repeated himself, this time using the voice he'd speak to his teachers in when he was at school. The International Space Station, he said. We had an issue. What kind of issue? I shouldn't say. It's classified. Can I please use a phone? It'll be charged in 5 minutes, don't worry, mate. Phil went back to his pals. Here, he said, lowering his voice. He's definitely a real spaceman. He's for the International Space Station. We could be on the telly for finding him. No, he's no, said Taylor. Soon as your phone's charged, you phone him a taxi and get him as far away from here as possible. Danny got up, pulled out his phone, and snapped a picture of the spaceman. Before Phil could tell him not to, the image was already on Facebook. Did you just put a picture of him online? Phil asked. Oh, did you? Moaned Taylor. People are going to think we're freaks, man, hanging about with that weirdo. Oh, here, hang on, it's disappeared, that picture. It's deleted itself, said Danny, seeming confused. It was only up for a couple of seconds. Aye, just as well, said Phil. We could get into trouble with NASA or whatever. He said he can't tell us what happened up there. Just then, the front door slammed shut with the spaceman inside the flat now and holding it closed. Oh, what are you doing? Shouted Taylor. Get back out there. No, the spaceman shouted. They're coming for me. Who? Asked the three boys. Shh, the spaceman hissed. Just listen. 2 pairs of heavy footsteps were coming up the stairs. If they knock the door, do not answer. The spaceman stumbled away from the door, past the boys and into Taylor's mum's bedroom. The boys stood staring at each other. They heard 2 hard, authoritative knocks on the door. See if that's my ma and she finds a spaceman in her room, she will go mental at me. Why would your ma chap her own door if she stays here? Danny said. Taylor offered no answer, instead peeking through the spy hole. Who is it? Phil whispered. It's 2 guys in suits, said Taylor. Dan went over and pushed Taylor aside to see. Oh, Jesus, they look weird. Nah, fuck this, said Taylor. I want answers. He charged down the hall and into the room where the spaceman was hiding. Phil and Danny followed. Right, you, Taylor said to the spaceman who was lying on his mum's bed. Who are you and who is that at my door? The men at the door rattled it again. They'll say they're from the government, but they're not, the spaceman sighed. If you let them in, do not tell them I'm here. The spaceman grabbed Taylor by the collar of his polo shirt. Okay. Taylor stared into the man's bloodshot eyes and felt a chill. The spaceman let him go, lay back, closed his eyes. He was exhausted. I don't like this, said Danny. I'm freaking out. Aye, me too, said Phil. The door went again, louder this time, harder. If we don't let the guys in, they're going to boot the door down, said Taylor. And then my mom will kill me. She will actually kill me. Right, I'll answer it, said Phil. You just wait in the living room and see if it sounds like I need help. Come and help me, all right? Taylor and Danny looked at each other, wild-eyed. All right, Phil repeated. Aye, okay, we'll help you, Danny said, sounding less than convincing. Phil opened the door slightly. Mr. Stewart, one of the men said. They both had on black suits, white shirts and black ties. Very normal-looking men, you would think, if you saw them walking through the city centre in the middle of the day, but not very normal when you considered this was after midnight in a block of flats. Phil wondered how they knew Taylor's last name as well. He couldn't quite place their accent either. It wasn't Scottish, nor was it Russian like the spaceman's. It was some kind of mix between English and American. Can we come in? The other man asked. Phil noticed that the 2 men were identical in both appearance and voice. They were the same texture and shade of white as the wax of a candle. Their faces were hairless, not so much as an eyelash between them or even a single lip. Taking Phil's silence as a yes to their question, they breezed past them and into the living room, causing Taylor and Danny to jump up from their seats. The 2 men sat on the couch, looking around the room. We have reason to believe there's someone else here, one of the men said. No, mate, no, said Phil. It's just us 3, just us. That's strange. We saw a picture on Facebook of a Russian cosmonaut sitting right outside your front door. No, that was just a joke, said Danny nervously. There's no spaceman here, obviously. So he isn't lying asleep in the bedroom then? No, said Taylor, trying to affect an air of authority with his words. There's nobody else here apart from us. The men were sitting bolt upright on the couch with their mannequin-esque hands resting on their thighs. They leaned forward in sync, staring hard at the 3 boys. Is it okay if I go to the toilet? Asked Phil. One of the men gave him a very unnatural nod of the head, and he slinked out of the room while the other 2 boys stood rooted to the spot. He creeped into the bedroom and awoke the exhausted Russian cosmonaut with a gentle shake of his shoulder. The spaceman blurted something out in Russian. From his tone, Friel gathered it was some kind of expletive. Mate, they're here. They know you're here as well. Shit, the spaceman said. What have you told them? Nothing, I promise. Both their heads swiveled round as the bedroom door opened and in strode the two men in black. Sergei, one of them said. What happened up there? Friel turned again to look at the spaceman just as he vomited over Taylor's Maw's leopard print satin bedsheets. You need help, Sergei, the other man said. As soon as we get answers to our questions, we can get you the help you need. The two men stood shoulder to shoulder at the foot of the bed, looming over Sergei and Friel. Danny and Taylor came into the room, keen to see what was about to happen to the spaceman and what the spaceman was about to say. They came aboard the station, the spaceman said. There were so many of them. We thought that, Sergei, one of the men said. The other one knelt down. How many were there? He asked. 10 or 11, maybe more. They moved so fast. It was just you on the station, is this correct? Yes, it was a solo mission. Did you come into close contact with the beings? Sergei closed his eyes for a moment. Yes, he said. Did they communicate with you? Sergei nodded. Hold on, aliens! Friel blurted out. One of the men allowed his lipless mouth to curl into an almost demonic smile. Yes, aliens, the spaceman said. They're real and they're everywhere. There's no point denying it. The whole population will see them soon. Okay, Sergei. The man's smile faded. That's enough. So aliens are real, said Friel. He's a real spaceman and he's saying aliens are real. Don't listen to him, said one of the men. You've not seen anything. You've only heard the ramblings of a madman. The men grabbed Sergei. He tried to flail and break loose, but he was too exhausted, and the men were too strong. They marched him down the hall with his feet dragging along the floor behind him. We were never here, one of the men said, glancing back towards the boys. The door slammed shut behind them. That was mental, said Danny. Ah, you're right, mate, replied Friel. The boys stood staring at the ground for a few moments, unable to quite process what had just happened to them, what they had just bore witness to. They were snapped out of their catatonic state by the sound of a key entering the lock of the front door. Oh shit, said Taylor. That's my ma back. Taylor's mum strode in, just off back shift and wanted nothing more than a quiet night to herself. She stopped dead as she entered the flat, clocking the three boys, two of whom were not supposed to be there. You two, get out, she said to Friel and Danny. They did as they were told and left. Right, Taylor, don't lie to me, she said. Was there anybody else here apart from them? No, Mum, he lied. Thank you. Back to Russell.
Thanks very much, Chris. Thanks so much. Oh, virtual audience. Well done. Lovely stuff. And I have to also compliment your wallpaper. It's excellent.
Thanks very much.
It did make me wonder if you were sat on the toilet for a while. But
no, I can confirm it's a bedroom.
Excellent. I forgot to mention, everyone, we're also doing a raffle tonight, as per usual. Although, normally we'd have amazing prizes that you could take home. But actually, if you win the raffle tonight, and it's free just for coming, we're going to send you a £10 gift voucher to spend at the Shore Infinity store. So you can buy whatever you want. So good luck on that. And we'll do that at the end. But before that, of course, we've got more readings. And before I introduce our next reader, I'm going to tell you another joke. So, how do Jedi open PDF files? How do Jedi open PDF files, anyone? Use Adobe One Kenobi.
Hey!
Good one. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is terrible. But brilliant.
Welcome to Event Horizon. That's what it's like. So my great pleasure to introduce probably a reader who's come from one of our furthest locations, who's actually still there, I suppose. But Noreen Dorman is a South African author and editor of science fiction and fantasy who's currently living in Cape Town. Her novels, short stories and novellas have been nominated for numerous awards, including the Sandland Prize for Youth Literature for her novels Sing Down the Stars and Dragon Forged. She's the curator of South African Horror Fest Bloody Parchment event, and is a founding member of the SFF Authors Cooperative Scolion. So please welcome Noreen Dorman.
Hi, everybody. So this is Sing Down the Stars. It's the first sci-fi novel I've actually written, and I was absolutely blown away that it won the Sunlam Gold last year. So it was like absolutely amazing. And if I can just describe it to everyone, it's kind of like Star Wars meets Oliver Twist with a bit of parkour added. And so I'm going to read a passage now to give you some background. It's a bunch of kids of different species. They're all in this training center. And Nuri, who's the main character, she is feeling a bit sort of overwhelmed by everything. And the whole premise of the story is that there's this giant space egg and it's going to hatch. And one of them is going to end up being the person who bonds with it. It's sort of very Anne McCaffrey, Dragon Riders of Pern, if anyone's ever sort of remembered those. So I'm just going to read and stay tuned. Okay. It was either very late or stupidly early when Nuri crept out of the sliver of window and onto the ledge. The cold air slapped her face and she was instantly awake. She couldn't honestly say what possessed her, save that she was in the grip of a burning need to be outside, away from the others. The walls were crowding in on her. Everywhere she went, there were people. She couldn't last remember when she'd been alone long enough to hear herself think. Winter had set in good and proper, and it was so cold her breath misted in front of her face as she clambered down the gutter. The lack of good hand and footholds made this especially tricky, and while she descended, this was all that occupied her, another challenge. Lost in the physical act of climbing, she could concentrate solely on the sensations of each surface on her fingers, of bracing herself, of risking the danger of falling. Not that she'd fallen in a while, and not that her dorm room was that high from the ground. She could make the jump, easy peasy. But she wanted to try the climb. So far, no one had been able to. Hopefully, the security AI wouldn't rat on her. Once she was on the ground, she darted to the shadow on the opposite building, dashing around the corner before one of the security bots hummed past. The bot was a small, silvery disk that hovered about a meter off the ground, scanning. She wasn't sure if it detected heat signatures, but she'd rather not risk it sensing her. It felt better having a solid structure between her and a possible sensor. Granted, there were still security cameras about, cunningly hidden, so that she'd have to be quick. This was stupid, really, but the thrill of doing something that could possibly land her in a great deal of trouble made her heart beat a little faster, made her senses come alive. No alarms, though, just Nuri and patches of inky shadow as she slipped beyond the obstacle course and into the forest. Strangely, she missed the northwestern barrens. She hated to admit it, but she did. She missed her usual routes across roofs and along walls, the little gaps between buildings, the hiding places only Pack knew about. The lights, the color. Did they even miss her? In the time that she'd been running for Vardith, 7 years once she'd proved she could follow orders without getting caught. He'd always sent runners to investigate missing packmates, but once it had become clear that they'd vanished without a trace, life had continued. Nuri could only guess that the same had happened in her absence, and a small measure of sadness crept in. Shiv, even Garen and the others, they were the closest thing to family she'd ever had. Had being the operative word. Was this what life was going to be? Loose connections that fell apart as fast as they formed, with Nuri too scared to open her heart? That promise of wholeness that she'd felt with the calling teased her. What must it be like to be bonded to another so seamlessly? Though she'd intended to creep to the forest and perhaps run the perimeter, Nuri strayed back to the hangar instead. There, behind the featureless grey walls, was the seed. It was inconceivable that a Nif would eventually emerge and ascend to orbit around the planet. The facilitators had taught them as much as was available on the records about the star jumpers. They didn't quite look like spaceships. Well, obviously, they were living organisms that harnessed the power of suns and an unknown type of interdimensional energy, so far as the scientists could tell. No one knew, and the existing avatars who'd had dealings with the authorities certainly weren't talking. Each star jumper looked different too, but all of them were sleek, long, and with numerous veined fins, some of which were armed with lethal spikes. Their heads made Nuri think of predators she'd seen during lessons that lived in the deep oceans. Except the star jumpers had no mouths, and their eyes were massive and blacker than the blackest black. Their skins shimmered mother of pearl. There was something monstrous yet beautiful about them, like dragons maybe. The laws of reality that applied to all other living beings didn't seem to matter to star jumpers, who could rip the very fabric of space and time, blink out of existence in one place, and appear nearly instantly thousands of light years away. Why would they even seek an alliance with humanoids? Nuri leaned against the hangar wall, tempted to query with her psi awareness, but feeling oddly shy about it. Nothing. Just the rough texture of the structure pressed to her cheek. Small amphibians plinked and croaked nearby in the grassy verges. "Hey," someone said nearby. Nuri gave a small shriek and rounded on the shadowy figure that stood 6 or so paces from her. "Rafael, the one and only." His smile was bright against his dark skin. "Should I be concerned that you're not safely tucked in your bed? The AI sent me to check up on you instead of creating an alert." Nuri shook her head and tried not to show her tension. "I couldn't sleep. Am I in trouble?" "Depends, love." Rafael approached, hands shoved deep in his pockets. "That was some stealth on your part. The sensors only picked up your movement when you cut back from the forest." Nuri swore softly. She should have stuck to her original plan. "I'm sorry, but I needed some space to..." She waved her hand helplessly about her face. "I sometimes can't hear myself think. Too much noise." "You were running to find silence the night you came here, weren't you, love? Before you heard the call." Rafael closed the distance between them and leant up against the wall next to her. A sigh escaped her, and she toed at a clod of loose turf. "Maybe." A moment of quiet hung between them, and Nuri grew uncomfortable with the pressing silence. He was waiting for her to speak, wasn't he? "I haven't heard anything since I arrived here." "And now you're doubting whether it was all in your head, to start with?" "Yes," Nuri hissed. Rafael gazed into the middle distance. He caught his bottom lip in his teeth, then straightened with an exhalation. "Come." He marched towards the entrance of the hangar, and Nuri trotted after, puzzled and more than just a little bit startled by the sudden shift in his demeanor. The door's lock flashed green as he approached, and he ushered her inside the office and then down the passage. "Surely I'm not allowed here?" "Hush now, just come. We won't get into trouble if we're quick. And if we do get caught, I'll take the rap." The interior of the hangar was warm, and Nuri began to shiver. It had been colder outside than she'd thought. Rafael hung back at the door, gesturing for her to carry on inside. "You've got 10, 20 minutes. I'll wait. Just spend some time here. Think about things. Open yourself up to the possibility." Nuri was certain she must be wild-eyed, but she squared her shoulders and approached the seed. It was larger than the last time she'd been here, noticeably so. In fact, even as she watched, it expanded, fraction by fraction, in tiny pulses, with the grating of fine crystal against crystal. The psi fields around it crackled, made the small hairs on her nape prickle. The overhead lights sparked off the jagged shards and neurofilaments that reached ever outwards, as if tasting the area around the seed's heart. And oh, the colors, opalescent blues, greens with facets of rose, all shifting, gleaming. Nuri couldn't help but approach, and as she did so, the hum of the seed grew louder and more insistent in her mind. It buzzed in her very bones. When she pressed her palm to her collarbone, she could even feel the vibrations there, and she grew short of breath. The closer she drew to the seed, the more she shook with the sense that this was a path that was laid before her, unavoidable. The sensation she gathered from slightly pushing her awareness suggested a slumbering alien intelligence that contemplated the courses of stars so vast as to make her feel as if she stood on the edge of an abyss. She gasped, stumbled backwards, and Rafael was there to steady her. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he whispered. "She's sleeping, dreaming of the stars," Nuri murmured, filled with wonder. "And she'll awaken sooner than we expect." How she knew that she wasn't sure, but the certainty sparked a wildfire in her, and all she'd experienced so far was for this moment, this potential, and she wasn't about to let the pettiness of the nasty girls stop her. And over to Russell.
Thank you, Noreen. That was wonderful. I could totally see why it did so well in all the awards. So before our next reader, well, before I tell you a little bit about the magazine as well, we're going to cut to a commercial break. So here comes the commercial from afar.
Oh, that was the last one to not touch gum. Whatever will I do now? Since the change in circumstances, we have all felt the burden of individual teeth. Using each one individually to push through your daily meal is just so complex and time consuming. Having individual little teeth nuggets can sometimes feel overwhelming, like herding 32 crunchy sheep with one big pink dog tongue.
This is a nightmare. What am I going to do?
Toothall, a new Munchy Munch Munch system that is just 2 big plates of teeth, like a ghost of a horseshoe. You know what they always say, your teeth are just a smile away. I sure do love my Toothall.
So please do go out and buy Toothall today. I know I suffer from that awful problem of having teeth nuggets. So after our commercial break, I should mention the magazine, of course. This might look in reverse to you. This is Shoreline Infinity, and this is kind of the reason why Event Horizon happens. This is Scotland's best and only science fiction magazine, but it did actually win the award in 2019, I think, no, 2018, for the best magazine from the British Fantasy Society. And we're really proud of it. It includes loads of great sci-fi stories, poetry, artwork, reviews, and more. And this is our most current issue, which you can see is quite sinister. So please do check that out on shorelineinfinity.com. This is issue 17, and issue 18 is going to be coming out in a not too distant future, and that's a Bane special. So loads of really great content in that one to look forward to. So please do check us out, shorelineinfinity.com. And before our third reader, I've got a joke for you. So where does Lord Vader buy his clothes? The Darth Maul. It's a good one. I can see Noreen's face there. She was not pleased. I'll say that. But I am pleased, not only for that wonderful joke, but to introduce Caroline Hardaker, who's kind of like my email pal, really. We email a lot about writing, so it's great to have her here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Probably email you more than anyone else, Caroline, which is...
Oh, an honour.
But Caroline is a wonderful poet. She's an author and an occasional librettist who lives in the northeast of England. Her poetry has been published worldwide, and she's currently the writer-in-resident for Newcastle's puppetry festival, Moving Parts. Her first poetry collection, Bone Ovation, was published by Valley Press in October 2017. You can see it there. It's very creepy. Check it out. And her second, which is also creepy, is Little Quakes Every Day, and that is due out in November. So please welcome Caroline Hardaker.
Hello. Firstly, I thought it was weird enough to follow that advert. Those adverts are like the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And then the joke, I mean, how can I top that? But anyway, yeah, as Russell said, I'm a poet from Newcastle, and generally I write all sorts of different things, not just sci-fi. I do a lot of fantasy as well, and everything's got a weird sort of dark twist to it. But tonight, I'm just going to read a few science fiction poems for you, mostly from the collection, which will come out in November, Little Quakes Every Day, but also there's a couple of new ones, which are a bit of an experiment as well. So hopefully they'll be okay. But anyway, I'm going to start with one that's sort of a dystopian view of a possible future. And it's kind of looking environmentally, really. And it's just a short one. And this is called The Trees. The last leaf was stripped and eaten at 4 p.m. last Tuesday. Since then, I've been sucking the marrow from stalks and chewing the rind of old bark, each piece peppered with black sand. We've split into factions. The winner takes it all. Finding a green bit makes you the victor. There can't be many of us left now. I've not seen another human in weeks. Even the trees reach out to touch each other. It's so weird because actually I've just read that. I've not read that one in ages, and I'm just thinking that's actually just like what it's like now. Haven't seen another human in weeks. That was totally unprepared, but yeah, there's a weird link there. I never thought that when I wrote it. So anyway, the next one. Sometimes I write poems based on kind of scientific inventions and things that I've read about or recent scientific developments. And then I tend to take it a little bit of a step further. And I've done that here. So with this one, I've just been reading, a bit niche, about stickleback, the fish, so sticklebacks, because there's a lake in Switzerland apparently where these fish have been observed to be evolving in the same lake. Some of them evolved to live in the stagnant end, and some of them have evolved to live in the sort of twisty currents of the stream, but it's the same fish. And I just thought to myself, I wonder if one day that might happen to us too. So this is just a little poem about that possible future and what it means about ourselves as well. So this is Stickleback. Imagine that we are sticklebacks. The pond is heavy but innocent. Our pockets are sewn closed, definite with stones, and we're up to our hips in things that act dead. A life in still water gives you time to think. The pond is a portrait of a stream. We're on the gallery bench, floating on our backs with arms and legs spread like sea stars, when a bone in my spine snaps, and the pond becomes a projection, a film on the wall. I turn and say to you, if I spread my fins and swim the stream, will you think I won't exist? That's that one. And the next one, I'm sort of moving on to inventions now, my invention segment. And this particular one is about the potential invention of a fifth fundamental or another fundamental force. And at this point, I usually say I apologize if there are any physicists listening because this may not be scientifically accurate. So I always give a disclaimer. So anyway, see if you can try and work out what the last fundamental force is. So this is the issue of the day. It has been discovered that what's known of the fifth fundamental force is the trace of the thing itself. The target has the intrinsic ability to evolve away from its design into something that cannot be judged, measured, or predicted. It's as if this force has anticipated the immediate and acted prior to its arrival. The smallest shift, moving in simultaneous alignment with its own ghost. Researchers have tried to evaluate its purpose for years, but remain vague, and every time they're on the news, they look younger. That's that. Okay. And then the next one is another invention, and this one is a synthetic body part, which I can imagine maybe one day might be invented. So in my mind, it's a bit more of an intimate version of a Babel fish. So this is mnemosyne. My new innovative tongue converts words into Afrikaan, Afrikaans, Mandarin, Japanese, Spanish, and all the serious tributaries, and can be reprogrammed on the move. A modest download is all that's needed, an invoice, then a reset. It can elucidate 1,000 thoughts into one poignant line with a dead-on dialect to bring gods to tears. It can coil around a throat or mend with a curing hum. It censors my swearing when necessary. But I am losing the words for flavours, bacon and cream, and the mellow tang of strawberries. Now they don't taste of anything. And then the next one's a newer one. And it's still an invention, I suppose, but it's come out of my growing obsession with automata. I've tried to build some myself, unsuccessfully mostly, but I think I still harbour the wish that one day I will be on Robot Wars if they hadn't cancelled it. God damn them. I can see in the chat as well, yeah, losing the taste of bacon is like the worst thing in the world. It's like the best smell and the best taste. So yeah, it would be awful. But yes, this one's about automata. But this particular automaton, called the Musician, has a new technological widget installed. So just if you can imagine the sort of automaton from the film Big, and then just listen to this. So this is the fortune teller. Ladies and gentlemen, bring your drinks to the center of the tent and behold our latest sellout attraction. Meet the Musician, the automaton of the future, now with a genuine peacock eye and his little secret, a multiverse widget, which winks a glimpse of alternate tomorrows. It's that golden nugget bulging from the pocket of his coat with the painted constellations, all of them always turning. Are you ready? Simply pop a coin in the slot, input your pivot point, and he'll lift his lute to play you a tune. But what will your song say, ladies and gentlemen? Some patrons kneel at the wheel as it spins, weeping holy water and clutching their rosaries. Others pocket their fortune card and stumble straight onto the next ride, rubbing their palms on their jeans and breathing hot, slack relief. And the last few, we know by sight now. They sell everything they own to pay for another song, another song, another song, until they've spent their future reading the roads they never took, until they're as still as the musician after a tune, as waxy as the porcelain moon on his coat. So that's the fortune teller. The next one is about everybody's favorite thing, taxes. Yay! But this isn't ordinary taxes. This is, if you try and imagine a world where maybe money isn't the only currency, and then what else we might pay for things with. So this is taxes. After she checked herself in, found her cubicle, stripped from gaunt thins into surgical linens, and awaited the anaesthetist on duty, she thought back to her mother. The roundness of her, an entire earth, scarred pink from numerous Benidorm afternoons and boastful flesh, full of herself, pruned into a cognizant topiary. Never owing anything to the state, she'd give you the back of her hand rather than a share of liver, an eye, or her eustachian tube. And it would still mean something to you. Her body failed her in the end, naturally, occupied by fostered carcinogens from her little choices. Her world demanded no court orders, carving up a cadaver in arrears, or an official apology for her lifestyle. And then, I think I've just got one more. This one is, again, another scientific thing that's going on at the moment. And it's just a casual look at genetically modified embryos. So I know there's a big debate about this at the moment in terms of the ethics of it. I think the first attempt in the US was 3 years ago at doing this, but worldwide it's been earlier than that. So this is a bit of an abstract look at a recipe that a doctor might follow to do that. And this is a recipe for meringue. Evoke the light touch required to make meringue. Whisk the mix like you'd doctor a diary entry, retrospectively. Deftly tap the steel spoon to play a tune, a fine one, and wear her shoes. Lace them up in predetermined blue. Stick to her mother's recipe. Avoid the starry mess of too much sugar. Drizzle it in like a snowstorm in an old film. Be wary of the golden spider hiding in the milky white. Seal off the windows so rain won't haze your sculptured peaks. This isn't crochet or lace. Keep true to the light touch needed to crack meringue. Bake light and slow. Serve on a platter of bald canvas for the gallery, sketched only with a mosaic fingerprint, marking cracks through which tangs rise after a rain dance. And that's it for me. So back over to Russell.
Thank you, Caroline. disturbing as ever. And I think people are particularly disturbed by the idea of not being able to smell or taste bacon. That's
I think everyone's proper traumatized now. Which is
now we know.
team.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
We'll have to use that in something else. We just want to freak people out. Okay, so before our final reader tonight, the final joke of the night. How sad. How did Darth Vader know what Luke Skywalker got him for his birthday? He felt his presence. Oh, I got it. Yeah, and as I always say, if you're at a swanky party or a political meeting, anything like that, and you want to impress people, I'm not precious about these jokes. You can use them. That's fine. Just, send me some money. That'd be good. Anyway, our final reader for tonight, before we draw the raffle and say our thank yous, is T.L. Huchu, whose work has appeared in many publications, including Lightspeed, Interzone, and Afro SF. He's the winner of a NAMO Award for African SF and has been shortlisted for the Kane Prize and the Grand Prix de l'Imaginaire. His new fantasy novel, The Library of the Dead, the first book in the Edinburgh Nights series, will be published by Tor next year. So please welcome Tendai.
Thank you, everyone. Tonight, I will be reading my story, The Worshipful Company of Milliners, that came out in Interzone in 2015. It's got great art there. The reason I picked this particular story is it's set in a world where the muses have abandoned writing and poetry for more lucrative gigs, inspiring people in IT or film or television because it's just a lot more lucrative. And so a vacuum emerges and writers are still working. They still need ideas. And now you have these creatures called the milliners who provide writers with inspiration. And this inspiration comes in the form of a hat. So you get a hat, and that hat represents the idea for a particular project. And I've been thinking about, where ideas come from and inspiration a lot, because the irony of the current situation we're in is, you've got a lot of solitude, the self-isolation, et cetera, and which is, every writer moans about not having the time to create. And this is almost the perfect environment because you're not getting people knocking on your door or you're not getting invited to things so you can actually create. And that's, for me, that's pretty ironic. And that's why I chose to read this story, which is about Kitsy, a new milliner joining the sisterhood. So we start right from the start, and I will read a bit of an excerpt as she learns how to do her new job. So, the Worshipful Company of Milliners. Every writer wears a hat. Most people may not see it, but it's there, a kind of halo which can be seen if you look from just the right angle at a particular time of day when the rays of the moon strike the head at the precise moment when your inner eye opens. But the thing about hats is very few people worry themselves with the milliners who make them, a noble and much neglected profession. Of these artisans, there exists a small special faction, sometimes called the modistes, who work from an old brick factory in Harare, supplying hats to writers all over the world. For as long as she could remember, plus or minus 1 hour, Kitsy had been in the factory. Before that, everything was bleak, blank, the foreboding outer darkness of non-existence. Like a baby gazelle, she had come to and wandered through the workshop floor aimlessly, skirting past milliners, cutting felt, sewing and gluing. An arm reached out from behind her and touched her shoulder. "New girl, you want to come work with me?" said a smooth voice behind her. "My name's Pesci." "Kitsy," Kitsy replied, taking the four-fingered hand offered into her own. Always confusing for a first-timer, But don't worry, the fog will wear off in a bit. Where are we? Work, home? You choose what it is to you. Look around. These are all your sisters. Pesci swept her arm in a grand arc. All around were thin figures in uniform black dresses, much like French maids. Their faces resembled cat-human hybrids, feline eyes and round faces. Arms moved about furiously working, and watching them for a moment as they sewed and hewed, Kitty felt an itch in her palm. She scratched, and the itch grew worse, until it became an unbearable burning, engulfing her whole hand, spreading its necrotic pain upwards. She rubbed her palms together. Pesci handed her a pair of scissors, and the itching stopped. It became a lukewarm glow in her fingers. Idle hands at the devil's workshop. You'll get used to the itch. Pesci's tail came up over her shoulder and scratched her nose. She smiled, her mouth revealing sharp, white teeth. Where am I? Kitty asked, taking a deep breath, confused by it all. Come, let's see what the boss lady has in store for you, Pesci replied with a wink. The factory on Lobengula Road was cold in the winter and hot in summer. Its zinc metal roof was buckled and creaked with the slightest wind. What windows remained unbroken were caked in grime many decades old, like frosted glass, and the sunshine came in a yellowy-brown texture full of dots and dark spots. Kitty stood on the dusty floor, her black boots surrounded by the debris and offcuts strewn by the milliners. A languid fellow in overalls with dreadlocks and a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth walked around in a dream state with a large broom, sweeping through the rubbish, piling it at people's feet and in the corners of the room, creating small parts and never picking up after himself. Who shared this workstation? Said Pesci, drawing Kitty out of her reverie. Keep it neat, keep it tidy. Do not lend our stuff to anyone. Never, ever, ever. No one returns things around here. Someone from the next table tutted. Tools. Scissors, needle, brush, pliers, pin pusher, spinner, corset stay, egg iron. This is all too much to take in, said Kitty. Consider this your crash course. Pesci kept on, pointing from one object to the next on their wooden worktop, gnarled and scarred from years of use. Kitty saw names etched on the surface in desperate script as though their owners didn't want to be forgotten. She ran her hand over a T, her slender finger falling into the groove. All around came the noise of snipping, hammering, voices humming or singing in the far corners of the factory floor. A large round clock near the main doors chimed with every hour, and the cuckoo came out, jerky in motion, as though the springs were broken. What if I can't do this? Kitty said. Easiest job in the world. You get the hang of it, Pesci replied, her voice carefree and full of gusto. Cheer up. You're not the first to join the sisterhood. Only we're not in London, so... But what if I really can't? Oh dear. Pesci stopped. Her fingers gripping a thimble like a croupier holding chips. This is what you were born to do. Boss lady runs a tight ship around here. No hanger-ons allowed. It's either in or back to the void for you, and I certainly know which one I prefer. At the far corner of the table was a small forage cap in navy blue, which Pesci was making. It was of the colonial style, soft sides with a firm round crown. The peak was made of black leather, and bits of thread from the stitching jutted out. Pesci took it in hand and held it up. You have to be careful around here. She leaned in close and whispered. The sisters are not averse to borrowing now and again in order to keep their quota up. Kitty learned the trade with the ease of a nestling learning to fly. Imitation, desperate flaps in thin air, a view of the dense undergrowth in which lurks all manner of predators. For with the fear of oblivion behind her, she had no choice in the matter. Her fingers, she found, were thin and nimble. She could thread a needle with ease and stitched up Pesci's work. A few times she pricked herself and drew warm red blood. She sucked her finger and went straight back to work. Late in the morning, Pesci took a flask from a shelf under the worktop and told Kitsy it was time for a break. They both walked with shuffling gait, each step no more than a few inches apart. From the back, they had the clockwork motion of geishas with bound feet, their tails swishing behind. Pesci stopped to introduce Kitsy to Fifi. They chatted for a moment and giggled like schoolgirls, then moved on, out the creaking doors, into fresh air. Kitsy took in the concrete pavement, cracked with tufts of grass jutting out and litter growing around. The fence was brown with rust and had more holes than wire. Lorries coughed up smoke and droned along the road. The other industrial units were as dilapidated. Many were worse. Roofs caved in, machinery stolen and looted for scrap. Near the gate sat an old security guard reading the daily news. "Don't know why they have him," said Pesci, lighting a cigarette. "The humans can't see us anyway." "How long have you been doing this?" Kitsy asked. "Long enough to know not to care," Pesci replied. And that's where we leave that particular adventure. Thank you all for listening. Back to Russell.
Thank you, Tendai. Wonderful. And I'm looking forward to the novel coming out. That's next year, right?
That is next year in March. I've just done some grueling edits, which was a perfect distraction from the madness. And now I'm working on something else. Yeah.
Keep you busy. That's the way to do it. I should say, actually, Tendo's been really busy because he's also one of the editors of our next issue of Shoreline Infinity, which has got loads and loads of great content in it. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming months when we and then we'll celebrate it coming out too. And Tendo mentioned hats giving ideas, and it's a lovely segue into the raffle. So hopefully Noel is there with the raffle hat. Are you there, Noel?
I am indeed. I have the raffle hat. And here it is, the raffle hat. So I will now pick one out, and I will now pass this on to Russell.
Okay, I'll just grab that. Thanks, Noel. Just got it.
Got
okay.
it. Oh,
yeah, got it.
Careful.
Got it. Okay. And the winner of the raffle, the £10 credit to spend on the Shoreline Infinity website, is David Whitmarsh. David Whitmarsh. Well done, David. Congratulations.
Hey, well done, David.
Spend it wisely. And yes, that's pretty much it for our first ever Event Horizon Online, or Event Horizon 49, it's otherwise known. But I've got a few thank yous, so please help me to thank all of these people. I'll go through them all and then we'll do the thanks. So our readers, who are Chris McQueer, Noreen Dorman, Caroline Hardaker, and Tendai Huchu. Also our producer, Noel, who's been in charge of the buttons in the raffle. And for sound and video, Mark Toner, who's sat on the sofa there. Also to James McIntosh for his sci-fi inspired adverts that you saw tonight. And to Creative Scotland for helping to fund tonight's event. And finally, a big thank you to you, the audience, because without you, we'd all be watching The Phantom Menace in isolation, doing Jar Jar Binks impressions and crying into the void. Thank you. And I'll just add to that, again, Shoreline Infinity provides new content every Thursday online now. So please do check that at 8 o'clock. Set a reminder in your calendars and you can see latest interviews, stories, poems, and lots more. Do follow us on social media. That's at ShoreInf on Twitter with the hashtag Event Horizon if you want to check out what's been said tonight. We're also on Facebook at Shoreline Infinity. And please do stick around and chat using Zoom if you want to. Share your thoughts with us. We'd like to know what you thought of this as our first online event. But other than that, I've been Russell Jones, and this has been Event Horizon Online #1. Thank you again, and good night.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you.